Good morning, everybody. I'm Tim Lammers from the Fox 61 Morning News.
And I am Brooke Griffin, also from the Fox 61 Morning News.
And we are here now live here on fox61.com because we want to talk about a problem that a lot of you are having out there, a problem that, in our opinion, is absolutely integral to any functioning society, right? What do you have to do? You have to keep yourself alive. You have to give yourself shelter. And that's where we're running into a big, big problem. So we are here to talk about some reporting that Brooke and other reporters are doing all week long regarding Connecticut's housing crisis. But there's sort of, a personal impetus that you were telling me about before.
There is. You know what? I just moved here back in October. It's been, 7 or 8 months, I think now.
Right.
And finding housing in Connecticut is not easy. I was looking for an apartment, something maybe a 1-bedroom, maybe even a really large studio. I may be only 5 feet tall, but I do like my space. I couldn't find anything that was within my price range. I make a decent and average amount of money for somebody my age, and it just wasn't happening. So I knew it was a problem whenever I was moving here, but then as I started looking more and more into it, it turns out I'm not alone. And if I can't afford a place to live on an average amount of money, who can?
Exactly.
And I was looking for something in Hartford. That's where we're located here in downtown Hartford. Our studio is right near the Capitol. I didn't want to commute. I knew we had traffic here in Connecticut. That was not something that I was used to either, moving from Oklahoma. And I wanted something that was going to be affordable. I wanted something close to work, and it wasn't happening. So once I started talking to some other people, I did find a place to live. I ended up with 2 roommates. Never had 2 of them before, and we found a 3-bedroom, but that was the only place that I could find to live in Hartford, kind of in a good location at a decent price, and maybe somewhere that was, safe, somewhere convenient, somewhere I felt okay to live. I was shocked. So the more I looked into it, the more I thought, you know what, this is something that we need to talk about. We need to look into here at Fox 61.
Yeah, I get the sense just from hearing your story that you don't need to be a realtor. You don't need to know politics or even the economics of home buying just to immediately know something's wrong here. Like you said, you're not living poverty wages. You're also not being very picky with where you're living. You want to have a good functioning state, a good functioning society. People who are working for a living need a place to live. If you don't have a place to live, systemically, everything starts to break down a little bit. So that's why this was not just one story that we were going to be doing. It was a whole series of them. Before we get into more personal experiences, why don't we just start with that? Tonight on the Fox 61 News at 10, I think we're just going to start more with an overview. Why don't you tell us what people can expect with that? Yeah,
so every night this week at 10 o'clock, you're going to see a different piece of this puzzle, this housing crisis puzzle that we're talking about here. Now, the first one is the one that I'm tackling. I'll be on today, tomorrow night, and then also Wednesday night as well with my first 3 pieces, and then Gabby Molina is going to take over for the last 2 on Thursday and Friday. First, tonight, I'm going to be looking at kind of the overview, the big picture of this housing issue here in Connecticut. What are some of the averages in Hartford, New Haven, and Bridgeport, because those are our biggest cities here in our TV market. Obviously there's Stamford as well, but they're down in the New York City area. Those 3 cities are very different. Hartford and New Haven and Bridgeport, we might not be that far apart, but the rent prices and the home buying prices are all very, very spread out. So if you look at Hartford, in general, you're going to be paying a lot less than you're paying in New Haven. That may be a college town, but it's hundreds of dollars more expensive to rent there. And even then, as a general overview, we are paying at least $150 more for a 1-bedroom, just a flat-out regular rent per month than the national average, which is already high. This is not just
in Hartford?
It is. It's in Hartford. And then even more so in New Haven, and about the same in Bridgeport. So and it's not a Connecticut problem. It's an everywhere problem. But in Connecticut, we happen to pay even more than people in a lot of other states.
Now, you were telling me this when we were talking on Friday about what we wanted to talk about here. The first place my mind went was, well, yeah, I can imagine we're paying a little bit more to live here because this is the Northeast. People tend to make a little bit more money. But then I looked into it, and we have to once again clarify. You were looking at New Haven, Hartford, and Bridgeport. You're looking at the cities themselves. Well, when you just look at the cities themselves, people are not making more money than the national average, whether you want to look at the median or the average incomes, household incomes for Hartford, New Haven, and Bridgeport. The last time frame I was able to get those numbers was from 2020, but I think the point still stands. All three of them, residents in those cities proper are making less than the national average, again, by average income or by median. So that's where you start to see that the problem is doubly what it just looks like if you're just looking at prices.
I mean, yeah, just on a surface level, it's expensive. Everything is expensive right now. I mean, what was it, a month or two ago, we couldn't even buy eggs for less than $8. But that's another part of the issue. I spoke to a couple of different people who are having to pay these very high rent prices, but they're having to sacrifice. They, maybe are spending a little less on groceries. They're not, splurging on 2 boxes of cereal. They're getting one instead. And that's just at the basic part of things. They're having to maybe go less places on the weekend because they can't afford to go down to the beach for the weekend for a nice summer day. They're just going to stay home maybe and, hang out in the front yard because they can't afford the gas. And that's not because the prices are too high. It's because they're spending so much on rent payments every single month. And then, I mean, if you're trying to buy a house, that's a whole other story at this point. That's an impossible task, it seems.
That brings us into Tuesday's story. You're talking just specifically about the housing market and supply. Yeah,
so I did speak to a realtor. I've never bought a house. I'm not even trying to buy a house. And honestly, thank God.
I don't mean to laugh. I'm so sorry.
God. I don't want to be able to buy. I don't want to buy a house right now because it seems like it's an incredibly stressful situation. The realtor was telling me that normally you could call her up and she would have 15, 20, maybe even 30 houses to just right off the bat say, you know what, here's some options, look at them, see how you feel. I texted her on Friday and she said she has none. There's not a single one in her areas. She kind of focuses on the Rocky Hill, Weathersfield, some of these little towns outside of the Hartford, New Haven area. She said she has none. She doesn't even have a sign out right now that I could have gone and taken video of. That's what I needed to do. And she said that there was none. She gave me a few numbers, and in the 3 towns that she gave me, as far as some statistics, less than 25 houses. And none of them are hers. That's actually total how many houses are for sale in those towns right now. 25,
just hers.
Less than 25.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah, and the houses that are available, she said she looked into it, and those few houses, they're getting anywhere from 35 to 40 bids within the first couple of days of being on the market. That's not how it used to be.
No.
It's crazy.
I would even go as far as to worry if that's very dangerous for the home buyers themselves, because in order to get the winning bid, I feel like they're giving up things they're offering to pay in cash when maybe that may be a little bit of a stretch for them. Sometimes, as you were telling me, they're foregoing home inspections.
Yes, they are.
Now you are setting yourself up for all sorts of potential problems down the line.
You don't know what you're getting into with that house that you just paid $90,000 in cash over the asking price. She said that on average, you cannot find offers that are 30, 40, 50, 60,000 over. She said that's what they all are. There's nothing going at asking price right now. It's all 50, 60,000 over, and a lot of these offers that are getting it are in cash.
And this points obviously to a seller's market, but an interesting little coda. I think in some places, I'm not sure to what degree in Connecticut, even the sellers aren't happy because the prices have come down in the last 6 to 8 months. So there's a lot of people listing their houses now in at least other parts of the country. My father even being one of them, saying, why didn't I do this 6 to 8 months ago? And now it's kind of like the sunk cost fallacy. They're trying to chase the prices that they would have gotten, and are probably not going to get again anytime soon.
Probably not, but I mean, it would. You can't know that this was even going to happen. And whenever I was talking to that realtor on Friday, we shot the story about a month ago, early April, I believe it was. She said since then it's gotten worse, and there were more houses on the market even in April than there are now in the second week of May. And she said she just thinks it's going to keep getting worse as far as availability. Now, I did speak with a mortgage lender who said he believes that it's the pricing and the different values there could come down. But even then, it's going to make it even harder, because then people are like, oh, it's a little cheaper. Let's go for it. So it's going to I don't know how there's a way out of it. And like I said, I'm glad I'm not buying a house right now or trying to. But I have a heart for these people that are trying to. I spoke with a couple that said they've been trying to for 2.5, 3 years. You're going to see them in my story tomorrow night. Very sweet younger couple, just got married, and they have had a hard time getting a house. They finally did, but it was not for lack of trying.
Yeah, that's usually how the progression used to go. When you're younger, you're getting your first job, you rent for a while.
Yeah.
But the idea was to eventually move into home ownership. That was such an integral part of the American dream. You were talking about your experiences. I'm older, I'm 46 years old. It was not a great housing market when I tried to enter it, but I took a very familiar path. Instead of just renting all the time, I wanted to try to get some equity. So I bought a condominium in Manchester, but then brought on a roommate and used those rental prices to work for me. That worked very well, wound up defraying the cost because I was not making a lot of money. But I fear that even that option is off the table. When those housing prices are so high, you can't even make a competitive bid to do that.
No, and I mean, especially if you are somebody younger. I'm 26, so exactly, 20 years younger, just trying to do the exact, I would have loved to do the exact same thing you did. And I couldn't find anything that was kind of in that good price range. I don't have $400,000 in cash.
I don't either.
No,
don't feel bad.
I don't have that. And who knows if I ever will. And there's just no way that I could. And that's just for, maybe a little one bedroom in West Hartford. It's impossible to find something. I do have a friend that was able to do that route. She has, a house that her dad was able to purchase. She pays him rent. Now, that's a great way to go if you can.
If you can.
But that was even 3 years ago when she moved here from school. Now, I don't know if she would have been able to even find that house.
Yeah.
It's so much different. It's anybody trying to, even have a roof over their head at this point. It's not an easy task. It's difficult.
This is something that's nationwide, but I think it's even worse here in Connecticut for whatever reasons. I just this morning saw, I believe as a reporter for Forbes, that was going through housing inventory, active housing inventory, comparing April of 2019 to April of this year. I think only one city in the whole country, that was Austin, Texas, has seen inventory go up. Everybody's gone down, but at the bottom of the list, sure enough, the three cities you were talking about, Hartford, New Haven, and Bridgeport, I believe, were amongst the bottom six. New Haven, inventory's gone down 75% in the last 4 years. Bridgeport, 78%. Hartford, just a couple ticks shy of 80% fewer houses available. That's unbelievable to me.
I mean, I can believe the unbelievability of it, if that makes sense. And, to kind of touch on this last point, at least for me, was I spoke with these state leaders, I spoke with the local leaders, I was able to speak with New Haven Mayor Justin Elicker to see if there are ways to fix this. It's not going to happen overnight. This has been a very slow build for many, many years. And it's, partially about the cost. It's partially about, inflation and people's wages not going up, but the availability is a big deal. I was able to speak with both the Connecticut Housing Commissioner and with the New Haven Mayor, and they both said that thankfully things are being worked on. They're trying to bring developers in. They're trying to bring these incentives in to bring in those developers to then, make new apartments. And the one thing that I did speak with Justin Elicker about that was interesting to me was he said that they're trying and succeeding at making a lot of these affordable. So they're not only bringing in all these apartments and bringing in these big complexes, but it's mandatory that a certain amount of them are actually a certain price.
Like rent controlled.
Rent control. Now, it's not a rent cap per se, because that's not something that really anybody I spoke with has been able to successfully figure out a way to do. We hear about that in Boston, New York City, Los Angeles, all of these really large cities. But here, a lot of people that I've spoken with say it's an idea that they'd like to entertain, but the developers are the ones that are not on board. They don't want to have that kind of that control over them, or those kind of restrictions, I guess is a good way to put it. So the best thing they can do, though, is take again what New Haven has done and just make it to where a portion of them are affordable. So that way, people like me even could actually live there. On a normal salary without having to, spend a paycheck and a half just on my rent alone, not including utilities, not including anything like that. Just a roof over my head, which is just, it's a lot.
I know, and what a shame it is for you as a renter, because that's kind of the knockoff effect from the housing crisis. Now all the people who wanted to buy houses are stuck renting, but because of the shortage of places, now the supply and demand pushes up those rent prices too. You're getting it both ways even before you even try to buy a house, just from doing that. But it's good that we're starting to talk about solutions. Something can be done. I mean, it doesn't look like there's any nefarious efforts here. This is supply and demand that's just gotten out of whack here. But something needs to be done. That's part of what we are going to talk about all week long here. So, yeah, Brooke, you've got those stories, the overview tonight on the news at 10, talking about housing on Monday, renting on Wednesday, or I'm sorry, housing on Tuesday. Today's Monday, and then renting on Wednesday. And then I guess Gabby will start maybe talking more about the solutions.
So she's gonna, I believe Thursday was the evictions and homelessness. She's gonna kind of talk to some folks about that, and then on Friday she's gonna bring those solutions. So she's gonna hit even more so on those pieces that I sprinkled into mine, but she's gonna really tackle the solutions-based efforts on Friday. So I know I'm excited to watch that one because I think it will be really interesting.
Yeah, it's just a problem that is hitting so many people here in Connecticut, and especially Connecticut, like those showed. So watch Brooke Griffin on the Fox 61 News at 10 tonight, tomorrow, and on Wednesday. And then, like we said, Gabby Molina on Thursday and Friday as we do our part, not just to talk about the problems here with Connecticut's housing crisis, but also start exploring some solutions as well. Thank you so much for your time, Brooke. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. I hope you guys will tune in.